writing, and I haven't been waiting for a response. I've actually been waiting for validation, you know? I've been waiting for somebody to say, you know, you've got great writing capability, what you've got to offer is brilliant, you matter, your story matters, your journey matters, these other women's stories who were within this book, their stories matter.
So what I started to do, I started to just like buy and sell domain names when the internet was like literally you had to plug it into your wall. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It's so easy because you're chasing this dream and this vision that you have, and to feel as though you need to be working all hours of the day. And yes, there are some days where you need to push yourself that little bit harder, but you really need, if you haven't got your health and your well-being, you haven't got any business.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur Stories with me, Daniela Ginas, founder of She's the Boss International. I interview phenomenal women at all different stages of their entrepreneurial journeys, so you can be inspired, motivated, uplifted, and encouraged to start or grow your own businesses. If you haven't already done so, please make sure you press that subscribe or follow button so that you never miss an interview when I release it. And if you're not following me on social media, please go over to Instagram and Twitter and follow me at She's the Boss INTL. Today, I am joined by a close friend of mine, Denise Morris, who is the founder of Tag Network Midlands. Thank you so much for joining me today, Denise.
No, thank you for asking me.
So tell us all, obviously I know about Tag Network, but tell our audience what Tag Network Midlands is and how you came to start it.
Well, Tag Network Midlands, if I was just to summarise or elevator pitch what we do, we're actually a multi-sector networking organisation, as well as membership organisation, as well as a community that supports businesses, but specifically graduates, young professionals, entrepreneurs and leaders within the Midlands region. So I established or set up Tag back in 2014. So what we've seen so far, what I've seen so far in terms of the demographic, which has grown dramatically, and we're actually going to be celebrating our 6th anniversary next month. So I'm quite excited about that.
Happy birthday. So where did the inspiration come from? What led you to start the business?
Well, I worked for other organisations, if I'm honest, and I'd started networking myself. This was back in 2011, 2012. And I always used to see a lot of young professionals either sitting in the corner somewhere, or when they've been talking to business leaders, and you would just hear countless amount of times, but you would hear when you were having other conversations, the last 20 minutes they'll be talking to them, and then they just say finally, can you give my business card to your director? So all that time they've spent, I know how rude, all that time they've spent thinking and feeling that somebody, they've gone out of their comfort zone, they've gone out networking, they're actually talking to somebody at a higher level, that all this time they were interested in them, but really they were just trying to pick bits and information about what's happening in their business, only to find out who is the boss and for them to actually send their details to them. So for that in itself irked me. But I think in terms of networking anywhere within the business community, 2 things stood out for me. How young professionals were not necessarily given the respect they deserved when out networking. And more importantly, there wasn't many people out there of very diverse backgrounds either. So looking at the landscape, and that was back then, it was just a little idea, a seed of an idea that was really spawned on making sure that people from various backgrounds were able to have access to opportunities, connect with different people, actually connect with peers, make great friends. But these are the people who, when they step up within their career, will establish themselves as influencers. And by the time they're in a decision-making key role within any business, they're able to do transactional business together because it's a phone call, just simply to a friend at that stage. But ultimately, to welcome and be very inclusive to people who probably thought networking was out of their scope or remit because they didn't identify with other individuals that looked like them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So with that preying on my mind for a few years, it kept me awake at night to the point where I just said, I'm just going to just do it. So 2014, the brand of Tag Network was born, and needless to say, I haven't looked back since. Starting with just 2 events though that year, and it's just grown. So it's just great to see the different forms of communication, as well as different platforms where people can actually connect properly and make really long-standing, strong business relationships, which, if you're looking from an astute perspective, is going to lead to really us building a better region for ourselves with the type of business that's going to be coming through.
No, I love that. I love that you saw a problem within a space and you created a business to solve that problem. And I think they say that that's one of the best ways to start a business. Find what bothers you and do something about it. And you've really done just that. Had you had any kind of entrepreneurial leanings prior to that? Had you ever thought that you would start your own business, or was it simply the situation presented itself and you ran with it?
Well, prior to that, I was made redundant. So during that period, I had established a cake business for a very short period of time. But it was great to be able to interact, learn skills, know what you needed from, the fundamentals of business. I mean, again, when you look at what you need to know, you're always going to be constantly learning as an entrepreneur. You're always, as a business owner, going to have challenges that present differently, that will need a different set of skills to solve. And sometimes it's just something that you just have to overcome. So I have started and had my own business previously. It's just that this one was something that really compelled me and something that I was really passionate about.
Mm-hmm. When you think of the other businesses that you've run, what are some of the key lessons that you learned that you then were able to utilize in Tag to ensure that you've had the longevity that you've had?
Yeah, it was many different plethoras, whether it's engaging people in their level and understanding their needs and just listening and just asking very short questions, but listening to what people actually say. If there is a pain, understand how you're able to help them. But if you can't directly, who else within your network should you really introduce them to? Mm-hmm. And fundamentally, the running of a business. So we all say, as an entrepreneur and also as a business owner, depending on what size the business, usually if it's smaller, you'll find that you're working both in and on the business at the same time, which can be very exhausting if you're not putting your efforts and energy into the right things at the right time. So I've learned fundamentally from the first business that whether working on it, you have to also make sure the functions work for your customers and for your clients, and be visible, not being afraid to step out of your comfort zone, really. And this is probably one of the things that was quite interesting when I first started thinking about my first business, because it was a product based, that is something that you can create, something that's very delicious, something that people want. It was whether or not you put your face to the brand or you just have your brand as it stands. I find people connect a lot better if they get to understand who you are. So learning ways in which you need to do social media marketing, all the different things that you probably didn't do in other roles. But my background was sales, business development, marketing. So I was able to use those skills straight away. But again, you don't see the back end of the business, the fundamentals, linking them together, working with your accountant quite closely to making sure that you actually are turning over decent revenue. Working with and having mentors as well. So working with people within the same industry and picking their brains, and then learning to appreciate that you have to stand behind your own business. Yeah. So you have to be the face of it as well. You have to be the driving force. If you're going to do anything, especially when it's attached to running a business, you can't do it at 80%.
Mm-hmm. And you, sorry, I was going to say, you're very much the face of your business. Have you always been comfortable with that? And in terms of confidence, you always, to me, have come across as a very confident individual. Is that something that has been consistent, or is it something you've developed and nurtured?
I think when I first ever started Tag specifically, there was times where you would introduce a guest or introduce what Tag Network was all about. I always found myself just feeling a little bit self-conscious. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't think it anyway now, but back then, it doesn't matter how confident you are, you also just have that little self-talk that says, is anyone actually really going to be interested in what you have to say? and it's a very natural thing to happen. However, you really have to call those demons and just go for it. Because at the end of the day, if you can't demonstrate what it is that you're doing to help people in different guises, then understanding that it's relevant for you to say what you say. More importantly, the people around you should boost and help boost that confidence with you while you're looking to build that within yourself. Because I think on the spectrum, I'm extrovert, but at sometimes I'm quite introvert. And I recognise that self about me. I am quite happy to work in a hub by myself, but I also like to feed off, obviously, different people, having a busy room around me. So as the journey has progressed, I think for the first 2 events that I actually hosted, I was shy. I didn't show I was shy, but I was a little bit reluctant. But since then, when you're running events 2, 3, 4 a month, and in front of a group of people, whether it's 50, whether it's 500 people, delivering sessions and trainings to other people's networking events, you just learn to just get over that and overcome those demons. But if you have a harder time, I suppose, relinquishing that burden, there are lots of podcasts, lots of things you can read upon, identify and realise that's what it is in you. More importantly, how you can change that mindset.
Yeah, it's I always love asking that question just to get different viewpoints, because as you know, as much as I probably to a lot of people come across as a bit of an extrovert, I am incredibly introverted and quite shy at times, actually. And I suppose I didn't necessarily realise how many other women, and even just people in general, not just women specifically, who, in my opinion, or from what I've seen, come across as incredibly confident all the time, but have also had their own challenges at different times with shyness or with lack of confidence or imposter syndrome. So I think it's really interesting and important to continue having these kinds of conversations so other women can know that they're not on their own and they're not weird. But actually, even the most confident of people at some point may have had a confidence crisis, a crisis of confidence.
Yeah, and I think it's very natural to have that. I mean, you can be the most outwardly confident person, but you may have an encounter that kind of wounds your self-esteem in some way. It can be in terms of there've been so many different challenges happening and you're really conscious that you made the right business decision where you actually start doubting yourself. I say we've all been there at some degree. But if you remember your goal and your focus and your actual purpose of why you set your business, this is what's going to put you in better stead, just to understand the mechanics that right now, this is not your feeling. This is just environmental. This is just what's happening right now. And you're taking that on board. But then you can work through that. But yeah, imposter syndrome, especially it's more prevalent in females than males. But again, it's probably a society thing where if you're in a room and you are the boss, and it's probably happened to me in the past, that you've always got somebody running over to you to shake your hand, you're being introduced, and they go, oh, I've heard about Tag Network Midlands, they do amazing things, they do fantastic work, and I really want to get involved, and we need to get our young people involved in it. What role do you have in Tag? And before I say anything, they say, but there's a guy called Dennis who runs it. I'm like, Dennis? What does Dennis look like? I don't know. He's probably yay high, bold guy. I said, oh, what? It had happened twice in the past. I go, what do they look like? Oh, it's a guy. He's quite short or he's quite tall. It depends what it is they think it is. No, Dennis, who Dennis is. Dennis. I'm like, who is he? And he's the CEO. I said, oh, okay, right, okay. I said, have you met him before? And they go, no, never met him before. I'd love to meet him. I would really love to meet him. Tag is doing so many great things within the business community, and we need to really start doing some partnerships and finding out what's going on. Can you introduce me? Going back to what I was saying about young professionals back in the day. Can you introduce me to Dennis? And I said, I'm sure. I said, I'm sure I haven't met a Dennis. And they go, oh, I don't know how ranking you are in the organisation. What is your role?
Hi, I'm Dennis.
It's actually pronounced Denise. And I'm founder and CEO of Tag Network Midlands. It's only happened twice.
That is hilarious. I love that.
You know, those stories, and I won't reveal who they are because we're good friends now. Well, one of them we're good friends now. But it's just interesting in terms of challenging people's perception of when people perceive a business being successful or a business that they've heard a lot about, who is in the business and who runs the business. And sometimes the obvious shift is that it has to be a man who heads it up. I have no problem with that because Dennis can work in the business and Denise can work in the business.
I love that story. No, and I can't say that specifically has ever happened to me before, but I did, when I was running my first business, I did have a lot of instances where I was kind of being praised for some of the successes I was having, and I felt deeply uncomfortable with it, and kind of had this feeling very consistently actually of, oh my gosh, they're going to catch me out. They're going to realize that it's just me and I've only done these things. I haven't done all of these other things that they think I have, but I actually had. And I think that the turning point for me was when, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, the things that you're being praised and awarded for, have you done them? And I said, well, yeah, well, that's it then. So if you've actually done them, then that means you're worthy and deserving of the praise and the recognition. But it took me a long time to kind of get that in my head. And funnily enough, a couple of days ago, I'm in a WhatsApp group and I received an invite to join a Zoom webinar about parenting. So I thought, when I'm cooking my dinner, I'll just log in and have a listen. And as I logged in, I didn't log in with my video, but my name was on the screen, and there was two guys in the Zoom. The person that was hosting it, and I assumed somebody that he knows, and they kept saying, Daniela, is that Daniela? The entrepreneur Daniela, the one who runs the boss bit. And I was just like, what? And they were saying, turn on your camera. And I was like, why do they know who I am? And I was so confused because this was a London-based organization. And I remember kept saying to my husband afterwards, like, how weird is that they knew exactly who I was? And he was like, well, you've been putting in the work, so why wouldn't they know? So even now, occasionally, I still get those pangs of, oh my gosh, are we sure? Is it me that they were thinking about? So yeah,
I totally get what you're saying, because on certain occasions, because you work so hard on what you're looking to do and focusing on that, and sometimes you don't have the time to look up and go, actually, this is what I've achieved, and then put your head back down, because you're so much into, this is what you're looking to do, this is who you're looking to help and support, and it's all about your clients, and it's all about the brand. But brand you forgets that when I get on occasion some LinkedIn random messages, on occasion I'll get a message that's just from the CEO of a large global organisation. They've got offices in Birmingham and all over, and they will send me just a little email or a little message saying, just want to say I really admire your work and just keep going because the city needs you. Are they talking to me? I mean, you probably understand, within the confines of what you do, you've got your day-to-day, you've got your emails, you've got your ideas, you've got things that you want to do, you've got your clients that you inspire and work very closely with so they can get to the level that they want to get to. Aspirations within the city is high, so you're always looking and plugging into how you can help and support other people. So it just feels a bit alien when someone goes, but you're that person. And you just have to look now and go, let's talk to me. But it happens on occasion. But then you just put your head down and carry on doing what it is that you do. And I suppose when you look how the business market and model used to be in terms of people working in silos, and if you were doing great work in a specific sector, only that sector would recognise you and tip their cap and say great work, or acknowledge you in forms of inclusion in some of the things that they're doing, whether it's sharing your thoughts on a podcast, or whether it's asking, they want your influential views in terms of some of their publications. You now realise that there's a lot more unity, especially in the wider Midlands region, where organisations do actually go through the same thing. But if you're open, you've got a good, strong brand, what you say is relevant, what you do is relevant, whether you acknowledge externally that it is or not, there are people who go, actually, what you said or what you posted or what you did or the event that you created, that really, really helped me. Actually, that actually inspired me to do this and help more and or other people.
Yeah, no, for sure. So taking it back a bit, I know that for me, my kind of interest in business and entrepreneurship was embedded or instilled in me from a very young age, particularly by my dad, really encouraging me to never work for anybody else and to try and find ways to make money. In terms of your upbringing, your schooling, etc., did you ever have any early interest in entrepreneurship or any early teachings in entrepreneurship?
Honestly, no. In terms of my upbringing, my parents are very much into education, further yourself, further education, work for a good company, do your best, get a good job, don't let yourself down, strive for the best, but ultimately you're never better than anybody else and no one is better than you. But you put your hours in, you be resourceful, you think on your feet, but you build yourself your little containment of things that you need to do to achieve success. Entrepreneurship isn't something that was discussed, talked about. I think in terms of the generational perspective is, the Windrush generation and my grandparents coming over, really starting from scratch, building something for their children to be able to build on and to better and improve. And with the Jamaican background, it's quite militant in a good, positive way, where the things that you think you can get away with, you can't. If you're not doing your best, or at least trying, no one can doubt if you're trying and you fail. But if you're not trying at all and trying to hoodwink yourself and fool yourself, you're not fooling anybody. So there was always that push, that motivation, looking really in terms of how my parents were. They're very supportive, and whether me being an entrepreneur was very alien to them, they're still very supportive. They know that I put 100% into what I do, and that's the skills and the talent and things that they've installed in me. If you're going to do something, just don't go in it 50% ever, because you're going to embarrass yourself. If you try, and sometimes you try, fail, you learn, pick yourself up. It's not necessarily the fall, it's how you get up. But if you're doing something right and it's useful and it's helpful and the resources that you learn is actually going to touch other people, keep doing that. And more importantly, if there's a financial benefit, keep doing it.
For sure. So, bringing it, I suppose, across the years now, so coming forward as well as going backwards, what would you say has been the greatest challenge that you've faced, and how have you overcome it?
I think, and I'm going to be honest, and if any other entrepreneur out there looks at themselves and the only hurdle you have is you, the only challenge you have, you can have external challenges, but it's your skills, your vision, your know-how, just your defiancy to go forward and still create something new or to evolve. It all stems within you. Any challenges that anyone faces, external, we'll talk about that in a moment, but the most detrimental thing to any entrepreneur is the internal struggle. The things that you put in your own way.
Yeah, mindset.
Yeah, the way that you stop yourself from being able to achieve something because you're governed by fear, or most importantly, you feel that you're, just as you mentioned, what people see externally is not really you, but it actually is. You've done all those things. You've broke barriers. you've trailblazed, you've occupied spaces that were probably previously not occupied before. It wasn't done purposefully, it was just in terms of what you needed to get done within your own business. So external aside, most entrepreneurs and business owners have to just realise that yes, you are good enough. And if you feel that there is gaps or challenges, especially in your own skills, try yourself. Take that time out to do some self-development, learn the skill. And if it's easy to, if you've got contacts and connections that can help work with you, pick their brains, get a mentor. I can't emphasize the importance of having a mentor enough. They're not running your business for you, but they will tell you straight. You'll have the nurturing kind of mentor, which you'll need on some days, and you'll just get the let's get straight to it. That needs to change. That mindset needs to change. Somebody needs to be honest with you, especially when it's lonely at the top. I suppose when you run a business and you have a team, your team's going to say yes because that's what you're asking them to do. If you have a great board as well, if you're fortunate to be able to have a challenging board that will say why is that happening, and then you explain it and they go, now I get it, try that. Your boards should be there as another means of support of skills and execution. They're not running your business, they're not even in the business, but their expertise and their knowledge and know-how, and they actually get to understand you, helps also in addition, as you like to not feel alone. You'll be able to talk about challenges and perceived challenges and strategies, and they will probably go, let me add or input, or that sounds good to me. Don't doubt it. You were hesitant to do this, but I think your strategy is fine. And sometimes your board actually just says, how can I help you? What do you need? And mentors will do that too. They'll know how they can help you, but in some other areas they'll say, what do you need? And then you have that open dialogue. And I suppose when you're having struggles, challenges, it's easy for people to not be as transparent and to pretend that everything's still okay. Knocking on wood, there hasn't been any sublime challenges externally for Tag and business, because obviously during this particular time, I was always ever going to launch a online version because we have members who need it. So we were going to do the launch in May. So with the current crisis happening, we just say I just decided that now is the time to do it, but also offer it as a public service. It's for free. So anything anyone needs to learn, find out, establish, develop, grow their knowledge, anything they need, health, mental well-being, just to get them stable, just to get them by. That's what we've been delivering, or I've been delivering as Tag throughout the whole of April, and that will continue to do so because that was always going to be part of it. Just the situation forced it to come out sooner. So some challenges can also be an opportunity. And I've spoken to some of my really good friends within business, and some of them are looking at this as a way of restructuring businesses because they recognise that before everybody had to be in the office. Doesn't work anymore. You have to shift and adapt. And they've also now realised, which is a really great thing, that working moms who can't always be travelling into the office can actually be part of a strong, integral workforce and work from home. And thank you. I know.
Obviously, I'm not happy that the situation has happened. Of course not, because people are dying, etc. But I'm really happy that it's demonstrated how kind of archaic a lot of these businesses have been with not allowing or accommodating for mothers. So obviously, as a mother, I'm always advocating for working moms. And I just think the fact that so many people have been able to work from home with their kids in the house, even if they're not necessarily 100% as productive as they normally would be, it demonstrates that actually on a normal day-to-day basis where they might drop kids to school and then go home and work straight away, would work absolutely fine if more companies would just loosen the reins a little. And people have been forced to do that now. So it's going to be interesting when the lockdown is lifted, because obviously companies can't, I can't see how companies are going to therefore be able to continue on this vein of you have to be in the office from 9 to 5:30 and we have to see you every single day. For me, that was one of the reasons why I started my own business, because the concept of having to be anywhere every single day on somebody else's time used to stress me out. But that doesn't mean that I don't think for people that have chosen that life that they should be penalized if they then become parents. And also, if you cut out the commute time, that's extra working time.
I think, to be honest, that stands for everybody right at this moment. What we're finding is businesses who would have probably said no working from home for a plethora of reasons. One meaning that if somebody's physically not in the office, they're not working. That's not true.
Nonsense.
But also what people are finding now is, in your situation, being self-employed, if you're working for somebody else, you would schedule your work around your child, but then you would have absolutely no problem when it comes to 8 o'clock opening your laptop again with a bit of downtime and a bit more peace, scheduling your emails or responses for the following morning up until 10 o'clock at night.
Longer. Sometimes I'm up till 1 working, because I still have my contract and I still got work to do for that. Sometimes if I can stay awake,
I mean,
until the early hours.
When you run your own business, it's a different set of rules. You know, I don't know whether or not you found the same as me, is that because with the introduction of being able to do new product services, offer, you know, more things to clients and especially to our Tag members, you find that you wake up at 7:30 in the morning, and then by the time you look up, it's 9 o'clock. And you're like, oh, I've done this session, I've done this. There's so many things happening. You're thinking, okay, well, it's probably time for me to just take a break.
Yeah.
You know, and then when about, if you're still awake, compass mentis, then you just think, I know I need to do a couple more things, so let's just open the laptop again and just finish up a few things, and before you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and the cycle continues, because now is the time where there is absolutely no interruptions. It's a different time at the moment where you should take this time to take advantage of building things. I would always say to my fellow entrepreneurs, fellow business owners, if there is ways in which you can help people as well as build a different stream to your business, now is the time to think about it and executing. Try it out, because when things revert to a new normal, we're not going to ever say that we'll revert straight back. But some of the best practices that have been successful now will put us in great stead to move it forward and help more people. And I see, in terms of the recruitment side, people will now not overlook working mothers or working fathers that, you know, work from home as well as take care of their children too, because there's both sides, and not overlook them in terms of, well, they can't come to the office and they can't work for us. So redefining, I suppose, different boundaries within the workforce and the workplace is going to be something that we can identify now and see the shift.
I think that leads nicely on to my final question in terms of advice. So if there is somebody that's watching or listening and thinking, actually, now is the time I want to start my business, or they may be in the early stages of starting their business, what 3 pieces of advice would you give to them?
Understand what the market is you're in and going to. The reason being is, the caveat is, do you have the skills, experience? Do you have the expertise? If you only have 2 of the 3, train up, because your business will or may not be successful, but unless you've given yourself 100% chance of you being able to optimize the full potential of it, don't do it. But if you can, go for it. The second piece of advice I would really say is, understand that it's not going to be easy. If you understand that from the outset, it's not a vanity project, it's not a lifestyle business, or if it is, understand what you're looking to obtain from it. You will have clients that will be reliant on you. So if it's a fad thing or something that you're just, I kind of like the idea of it, don't do it. you have to make sure that it's something that you can give your 100% undivided attention. For those who have children, don't have children, your business is your baby. From whatever you create, the seeds are important, the foundation is important. You being the foundation, and whatever it is to be able to move forward with the business is going to be important. So just understand who it is that you're looking to help. What is the pain? You can't create a pain and then sell into it. There has to be one existent. You have to listen to the market and do a lot of research. Not to the point where you talk yourself out of it. Just keep yourself abreast of what's happening, you know, just generally within that marketplace. And also, my final bit is, although it's not going to be easy, though you might need to upskill yourself, it's so rewarding. It is so rewarding. There is so much to gain from the empowerment of having your own business. And I'm not saying it from a statement point of view. I'm not saying it from a role perspective. It's nothing about that. If you are keying into the right people and tuning into their needs and they're on board with you, you've done your job. You just need to do more and keep going and elevate. There's always more to do. There's always more to see. There's always more to achieve.
Yes, that's excellent advice. Thank you so much for sharing and for sharing your entrepreneurial journey. If people want to find out more about you, what platforms can they find you on? And
both myself and Tag. So Tag Network Midlands Limited, you'll find us on LinkedIn. Tag Network or hashtag, at Tag Network Mids, you'll find that across Twitter, Instagram, as well as Facebook. But me personally, you can find me anywhere, because you'll obviously see a tag posting somewhere at the moment. But if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, it's Denise Morris. And I can say CEO, founder of Tag Network Midlands.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, as well, I'm also the editor-in-chief of Tag Network Midlands magazine, which we featured you in for our winter issue, because that was good fun.
I will make sure that I put the link in so that people can check that out also. Thank you once again for sharing everything with me. Really appreciated it. And of course, wishing you all of the very best with Tag, and just with career generally. And
thank you for having me.
And thank you guys for watching, for listening. As usual, if there's anything Denise has said that resonates, please leave a comment so that we can know whether these interviews are having an impact, which I'm sure that they are. Some great advice shared by Denise there. If you are a woman in business and you want to be considered for an interview, please drop me an email to daniela@she'sthebossintl.com. If you're sitting watching this and suddenly feel like you want to start your own business, or you're feeling motivated to really grow your business, and you've taken heed of Denise's advice to work with somebody such as a mentor, I do provide business consultancy and advisory services. So you can also drop me an email to inquire further about that at daniela@she'sthebossintl.com. And if you're not already doing so, please like my Instagram and, well, you don't like Twitter, but follow me on Twitter at she'sthebossintl, and make sure you subscribe and follow so that you know when I release a new video. And I'll catch you the same time next Sunday at 8 p.m. for another She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur story. Thanks for watching.